Hey, this is AP Unit 4A for CollectionDX.com. In this review I will be highlighting the special features and other notables of the Special Edition Republic Cruiser set from the 2007 LEGO Star Wars line. The Republic Cruiser set is not an Ultimate Collector Series playset. It has detailed features on it, certainly, but they're not nearly as intricate. So this set, unlike most of the USCs, is designed to interact with minifigs, although nowadays that line is being blurred, so this could be considered a predecessor to some of the later USC models. But this is specifically designed to interact with and put an emphasis on interacting with minifigs rather than just being a standalone piece. So yeah, you can put it up on your shelf and it does look great all by itself, but it's also designed to interact with minifigs, and I'll be getting into that as I go along. One thing I'd like to highlight very quickly is how this thing keeps itself upright on a flat surface. And that is through the use of these 4 landing gear here, which they don't come out any further than this. In the movie, the few minutes of screen time the ship has, the landing gear is actually located here, and it's located underneath the, directly underneath the antenna suite here, under there. Suite? I'm not sure. And then the space that the landing gear occupy on this set were followed up with rocket landing thrusters, or whatever you want to call them. So, and believe it or not, it is stable. It is very stable. It's a little more, yeah, it's a little more front heavy, but it's very stable. It's not gonna. It's very good. It's very well balanced, and side to side is not a problem either. The highlight, though, I have to be very careful how I handle this, of course. The highlight, though, is the landing gear can be folded up, and this is just because of the way the landing gear was designed. I don't think they meant for you to be able to retract the landing gear, but that's just simply how it's done. So you can, you know, if you want to hang this from your ceiling, which this thing, by the way, this thing weighs over 5 pounds, so I wouldn't advise using invisible string or anything like that. This is probably just a result of the parts that were used rather than for being used as a feature unto themselves. So, but it was appreciated nonetheless. Another feature I want to highlight since I'm in the neighborhood is, and this doesn't appear in the movie, obviously, you don't get to see much of the ship, but you can see this little lever here. You push forward on it, and you get a pair of pop-out laser cannons, which are pretty cool. I like this. This is a neat little feature. And then to retract it, you can, you know, pull back on the lasers, push back on them, and then just fold this up again. Here's one of the things, though, and you'll see why a little later. The top section here, top section of the hull here is flexible. It pops open, and the door, if you watch again, you can see the door actually pushes up on it when it's retracted. Watch again. See how it pushes up a little? So it's kind of necessary for that. You know, if you think you can lock this down well, you'd have to raise it up a little. So that's and the laser cannon is featured on the other side as well. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. The antenna array it's actually pretty close to what appears in the movie. It is pretty close. One of the features, though, squeaky squeaky, it's an old tripod. My dad used this thing in college, can you believe it? How long ago was that? The cool thing about the antennas, though, which it can't do in the shooting model, is you turn this little lever down here, and you can, it's a little yellow Technique gear, and you can turn the antennas all the way around, which I think is pretty cool. My only complaint, though, from a playability side of things, is that it's a little too flexible. There's nothing to, it's not really, I don't like how it turns so easily. I wish there'd been a little resistance in it, you know, something. So. So that's a pretty interesting feature too. I like that. This can also, and again, this is just the parts they used. This can also fold back and forward and ratchets up and down at both those joints there. So, my other complaint about the set, I love that angle. That's such a cool angle. That's a great widescreen shot. My other complaint is how kind of weak looking the exhaust from the engines are. I mean, it's just, yeah. By the way, when you put these engine nacelles together, I kid you not, treat them like eggs, because these things they're not very sturdy by themselves. When you're first putting together, I mean, the first one I built, it literally blew up in my face. So be cautious when you put these three together. They're oh so slightly different from each other, but they're not designed to, you know, be handled when they're, you know, not put together like this. And now we'll show you the features directly associated with the minifigs. I've already shown you one of them. I have to pick this up very carefully, not putting too much pressure on this, of course. It's just sitting here. So the biggest thing, yeah, the salon pod's going to rattle around a lot, so shut up. The most obvious one is stick the captain in there. Hey, Captain! Captain was female in the movie. Captain is male here. There are no female figures here, so I'll leave that for you to figure out. For the record, this set has been slightly modified by me internally. You'll see no external changes whatsoever, but internally, all I did was I removed the rubber band more for convenience, because I don't trust Lego rubber bands. I know Lego's not going to be pleased to hear me say that, but sorry, I've had bad experiences with Lego rubber bands, mostly in the fact that they deteriorate very quickly within a year of use, and so I just saved myself the trouble and took the rubber band out of there. I do a step-by-step review of how I modified the thing internally on the text and picture review directly on CollectionDX.com. So go there and you'll see the modifications I made. So on camera I'm going to have to treat it a little differently from what you will get when you build it straight out of the box. Ordinarily there's a rubber band holding this together, but for me I took it out. So, and then you get here the salon pod. The balance is not compromised when the salon pod comes off. It's not quite heavy enough. This thing rattles all over the place, and there's nothing to hold the top and bottom sections together. And inside you can see Qui-Gon Jinn, the late great, and Obi-Wan Kenobi sans goatee. So you can take them out and, you know, blah 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 blah. That's a pretty cool feature. I like that feature. And I'll be showing you inside the hull, which, well, I've hinted pretty heavily at now. It is pretty interesting to note how close to some of the details from the shooting model appear in the set, but the interior is, you know, complete bull. You can see here again the working mechanism for the blaster. So, and you can see that, you know, this little lever here just pushes up against the door, and that, as they say, is that. Close up the door. There's a little lockbox here, well, lockbox, where you can open up each side and you'll have little minifig binoculars, and I believe there's a pair of pistols in there. Well, I'm sorry, a pair of blasters, minifig blasters. They don't call them pistols. What would a Lego space-themed vehicle be if not for the kind of required minifig vehicle? Just a cute little thing. I mean, this is barely 10 parts or whatever it is, so just a tiny little thing that sits in there. Promotional materials say that the captain goes in that thing. I'll take their word for it. And then the left side, I'm sorry, on the right side, this is the Republic pilot. So there's a Republic captain, and there's a Republic pilot. I'll leave it up to you to decide which is which. And then you get an astromech droid, which is R2-R7, which is an original design for this set. It doesn't appear in the movie. It doesn't have any significance. It's just a name that LEGO came up with. So collectors, don't go crazy over this. R2-R7. Cute little thing there. Just fits in easily enough, and the captain's mounted in there. Again, as I mentioned earlier, that opens and closes. The door, the roof hatch, whatever it is set in at an angle, and it literally rests on the top. It doesn't latch or lock in place. This will always be loose. So in case you think you built it wrong, don't worry, you didn't build it wrong. This is always loose. There are some similarities and differences I'd like to go over real quickly before I close this whole thing out. The similarities are, it's got a sensor suite along the front. This is also supposed to be sensors along the side here, but you know, they couldn't really do that, so they turned it into vents. This white area here and the black thingy within it, this is actually a vent or another sensor array along the side here, but because this is large enough that you couldn't really put more cockpit windows in there, windscreens in there, they just turned them into more windows. So that was very appropriate. I mean, this is designed to interact with minifigs, and so they have to accommodate that in some ways. The vent here is exactly where it's supposed to be. It's colored like this, it's shaped like this, it looks just the way it's supposed to. This feature here is also on the filming model, as are the airlocks located here. The only kind of big gripe I have is along the engineering section and back. What they did is, this is one wing section, it's completely flat all the way across, and then they have the kind of radiators or whatever it is along here. The radiators are accurate, and generally speaking, it all works out the way it's supposed to. Those thrusters are so puny, or I should say the exhaust is so puny. It's just those little round hubs or whatever there. My problem with the wings, though, is if it were to be more model accurate, what would have happened is you would have had the triangular section. The consular class ships actually have three wings on them. You got this front triangular section, and then the back two are layered. There's actually a space between them, so I don't know why, it just looks really cool. So even though, and I can only imagine it would have been very difficult to make two levels of wings, that is a detail that is noticeably different if you're a Star Wars geek like me. The other thing, squeaky squeak. The other thing I want to point out is that the lower section here, even though it's a split wing design in the movie, the undersection here doesn't look anything at all like like it does in the movie. It just doesn't work for me. It's neglected. I know you can't see it, but when it's stacked up on your shelf 6 feet up, you tend to take notice of things like this. So even though you don't see it, it would have been nice if they put a couple of different colored panels or something in there. So those few differences and similarities aside, this is a very well made set. Very well made. Very well designed. Everything works the way it's supposed to. So aside from those similarities and differences, this is a very, very well designed set. Very well designed. It's $90 off the shelf. Everything goes together exactly the way it's supposed to. Yeah, this is a little loose. Just deal with it. Yeah, this is a little loose. Just deal with it. Yeah, this is a little loose. Just deal with it. Other than those things, I think this is a very impressive model for the price range and for the part count. This is, believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, this is the largest Lego set I've ever put together. By individual part count, this is the largest set. So, I'm very impressed with it. I didn't want to get a Rebel blockade runner. Was it the CR-90 Corvette? I never had any love for that one, but this was different because Episode 1 was actually the first of the 6 films that I saw in theaters. I didn't get to see the special edition, unfortunately, in theaters. This Episode 1 was the first movie that I saw in theaters, and so the consular class ship just had a different resonance with me. So I have a lot more respect for this design, and you can tell it's an obvious homage to the blockade runner as well. So Very, very well designed set. I love it. I can't say enough about it. So, this is AV Unit 4A for CollectionDX.com, signing off.